Georgia Rose from Zenkuda Soul Space Community. Welcome to the Soul Space tonight. Thank you for seeing me. I'm here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. I am a third generation tarot reader, a healer, and also an astrologer. So in the Soul Space, we actually do some live readings sometimes. We can call into the show. We do on-air readings for people who are in the comments. And I also do astrology for the week ahead. So if you don't get a card pulled tonight, you can always see my show, Tuesday Tarot, which is a short video on my YouTube channel, Zenkuda on YouTube. So if you missed tonight, you can always watch me on that channel, or you can get some cards if that's your jam on the Tarot Tuesday. So welcome everybody. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to share the show and make sure that we share it with everybody. I've already got some people coming on. So just going to keep doing that. And here we go. Sharing. So if you are at home, or you're listening to me in the car or wherever, and you want to share the show, please feel free to do that, because I'd love for you to do that. We're trying to build our audience. I am the founder of the Soul Space Community, which is an online community, kind of in person too, if you're local and you want to come to some of our events. But the Soul Space Community is basically a positive content platform where you can come and hear positive things to grow your life forward, and also give you some tips where you can connect with your own soul space so that we can all come into our full potential. So we are broadcast live every Monday at 7 o'clock from the Paradise Studios in Massapequa, New York, where I live. And Bobby Lacera is my producer, and we love us some Bobby, LA. So please share the show. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm actually trying to bring it up on my phone because I have a very special person who I am trying to give the link to. And definitely make sure that you are watching next Monday, because I'm going to actually be reading the astrology chart for our winner of our free reading. As I said, during the month of November, actually, I think it was, that anybody who watched the show, we were going to enter them in a free drawing, and I did that. So welcome. So who have I got on board tonight? Let me see who's here on my show. Whoops. I always forget to put my sound down. So if you call into the show tonight, make sure you put your sound down too. So I got Sarah on here, and Janine, Anita, Colleen. Oh, wow. We got a lot of people on here. Anne. Thank Carla, Marie. Everybody's on here. Michelle. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about family drama and family karma. Now, what prompted me to do this was recently, I had something come up with actually a friendship in my life and their family drama. And just watching it unfold and being the observer really brought me into a space of thinking about some things that happened in my own life many years ago with my family, and just all of the cosmic dust, as I like to call it, that's in the air right now. It seems like a lot of people are having transitions with family. So we're going to get a little bit into that. So if anybody has anything that they want to comment on a little bit later in the show, or call in about having family drama and questions about the karma and what it all means, you can do that. So first we'll do a little bit of the astrology. So want to just get that link for the show, because I want to actually send that out to somebody. So just get comfy, talk amongst yourselves a little bit, and we will be doing that. All right. Okay, I'm going to share this link, copy to clipboard. Yay. Whoops. I tell you, I was saying to Bobby Lacera, I've been trying to, I was trying to do some technology stuff this weekend, and I just really having problems with it. And I came in and I was talking to Bobby, and I said, how come this technology is never easy for me? And he said, it's not easy for anybody. So that made me feel a little bit better. So anyway, so let's get going here. So I want to give you guys the astrology of the week. Toss my phone over there so it doesn't bother us anymore. I shouldn't be multitasking, right? I teach mindfulness, and I always say, don't multitask, do one thing at a time. So yesterday was an intense day with the astrology. We had some planets moving around quite a bit. Pluto is now retrograde back into the sign of Capricorn. What does that mean? Well, Pluto originally went into Capricorn in 2008, and we had 15 years of quite a bit of upheaval, turmoil, and change. And so now that it's retrograded back into that, it's our do-over. It's our like, let's finish up and tie up the loose ends. We started to move forward with our lives when it went into Aquarius, the beginning of this year, but now it's going back a little bit, and it's doing that so that we can tie up any loose ends that we didn't do over the last 15 years. So if anything comes back in, the ex comes back in. Family members you haven't spoken to come back in. Friendships, you run into people you haven't seen in years, or just situations you haven't dealt with in years are coming back up. It's to give you the opportunity to redo, refix, go back to the drawing board, and really reset. Also, any projects or anything that you started in January and that really have been, moving along for you, that you may see a little bit of a slowdown with that, or you may go back to the drawing board about that. Because when a planet goes retrograde, it wants us to revisit the energy that started when it went into the other sign. So, anything you've been working on since January that you feel really needs a little tweaking, now is the time to do it. Between now and December, when January comes, then Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for a very long time, almost 20 years. So anything that you want to finish up now is going to have a theme of Pluto in Capricorn, which is structure. It is security. It is things where we place our security in material possessions or the structures of life, government, schools, jobs. Maybe if you've been in a job for a long time and it's really not good for you, you may want to be in the process of changing that job. Maybe there's a course of study you have to do in order to do that, or maybe there's something that you need to accomplish in order to make that move. This will be the time when you really reevaluate and really look at those things. If it's a relationship that you feel is kind of outdated now, no longer serves, maybe that you really start the movement to look at that again, make your final tweaks. If they don't work, you're going to move on. Also, Mercury is now in the sign of Gemini. It's very powerful. Mercury is our minds, it's communication. So Mercury in the sign of Gemini is all about fast-moving communication. Our minds are going to work really well in this sign. We're going to feel like we are able to think more clearly, and that things are coming together for us in the sense of logic much more, especially if you're an air sign, Gemini, Libra. You're really going to find that you are able to think on your feet this next few days. Towards the end of the week, we will have a little bit more of confusion in that energy, because then Neptune comes into play, and Neptune is dreamy. We also have Venus squaring Jupiter, getting ready for that to be exact. And Venus squaring Jupiter is an energy that can make us do too much. It can be extravagant, can make us overspend, overdo. So, I had 3 different people today tell me that they did too much over the weekend, too much gardening or too much around the house or whatever, and their back was hurting them or their feet were hurting them. This is that kind of energy this week when Venus and Jupiter square, because Jupiter expands anything it touches, and Venus is the planet of the things we love and value. So we want to do too much of them. If you like to garden, you're going to want to do too much gardening. If you want to paint the house, you're going to do too much painting. If you like to eat, you're going to do too much eating. If you drink, you're going to do too much drinking. So this is a week where you really want to make sure that you're looking at that extravagance, that overindulgence, because this can be an energy where it's just too much. It can also rebound for some of us in the next few days of feeling almost agitated and uncomfortable, because it's just too much energy. It's like an overwhelm, like too much information, and information coming too fast. And it's almost like, what am I supposed to do with all this information? Sometimes I fall down a black hole of astrology because there's so much to learn. I've been learning now for over a decade, and just the tip of the iceberg. So sometimes I get really lost in that. And then when I come up for air, I'm like, but what am I supposed to do with all this information? So it can be a little daunting sometimes, right? Um, the sun is making squares to Jupiter and Venus. It's actually a half square on the 11th and the 13th. What does that mean? A little bit of crankiness. It's going to expand the crankiness. When energy is squared, it means that it's uncomfortable. So the sun is our vitality. We may feel a little bit lethargic or less energy than usual on the 11th and the 13th, which is right. We're in that right now on the 12th. This recording is on the 12th. When Mercury moves into Gemini, it's going to kind of have a conversation with Pluto. We've been talking about Pluto going retrograde back into Capricorn. That's going to cause some dynamic movement, because Mercury in Gemini is movement. It's communication. It's things happening. It's the wheels really finally turning. Think of your car being stuck in the mud. And now when Mercury goes into Gemini, now all of a sudden it shoots up forward, right? So when it touches that planet Pluto, it's going to really make the transformation a little accelerated for us. These next couple of weeks are going to be where we really see the opening. We really see where we want to make the change, make the transformation, whether that's the relationship or the job or the move or whatever it is. You're going to see it clearly, and you're probably going to start to take action, but the action isn't going to be as quick as you'd like it to be. But just know that this is a very dynamic energy of moving forward, even though we have planets that are going retrograde and slowing down. Mercury for the next 2 weeks in Gemini is going to cause us to really have quick movement with a lot of things. On the 13th, which I believe is tomorrow, Venus is in Leo. And with Venus in Leo, that is an energy, and it's going to stay there for a long time. Venus actually stays in Leo until October, which Venus never stays in a sign that quite that long. It's retrograding and going back and forth in the sign. This is an energy of public displays of affection. You're going to have a lot of PDA in this energy. Venus in Leo is fire. It is the lion. And, Venus is, again, that planet of love, the things we love and the values we have and what we desire. And with Leo there, it's an energy of wanting to show the way we love. We want the spotlight to be on the love. And Leo is an energy that really likes to be the king of the jungle, but also the king of the stage and, be the star. And so don't be surprised in this energy, especially later in the week, when, after the 15th, we've got Mercury in Gemini squaring Saturn, which is going retrograde. What does that mean in English for you guys? Well, it means the planet of our minds is actually going to find some limitations. So that beautiful communication that we've got these next few days after the 16th, 17th, it's going to start to feel like we're tongue-tied. It's going to start to feel like we're limited in our communication. And with Venus in Leo, the lion does not like to be limited in the way he shows love. So you're going to see a little bit of combustible energy there. Remember, Leo's fire. So towards the end of the week, weekend, Father's Day, we've got a full moon coming in. It's very potent energy, but it's also an energy that can be a little confusing. It's a type of energy where, especially when we come into this new moon, Saturday and Sunday, Father's Day weekend, it's very easy for us to be misled. It's very easy for us to see something that we think is real and it's not real, or being told something that's real that is not real. Think in terms of like maybe somebody creates something with AI, artificial intelligence, and it goes viral and everyone thinks it's happening, but it's not. It's that kind of energy. Back in the day when I was in school, I remember they made us study Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. And it was a public broadcast that Orson Welles did about a science fiction of, aliens coming. And it was a broadcast, but people actually went out in the streets and thought it was real. So even now today, something like that would be on steroids, because now we have communication where millions of people are watching something at the same time. Back when that was broadcast, if you think about it, not everyone even had a television set, or a radio. So it was radio, actually. I'm sorry. So before television. So maybe it was TV. I don't remember. Somebody put in the comments which it was. But when you think about that, and then now if something like that happened, how it would go global in a second, it would be billions of people watching. Oh, this is really happening. So that's the kind of energy. It's like easily to be misled. We're going to misinterpret things. So screen things very carefully as we go into the weekend that's coming up. The facts are not the facts, guys. You're going to think they're the facts. You're going to want to swear on them. And then you're going to be like, oh, wait, that didn't happen. And that's the weekend. And that's going to play into our subject a little bit today with families. And also in that energy, believe it or not, because we still have Venus in Leo, that is an energy where even though we get confused and things maybe aren't truthful, it's also an energy where, the sweet talking really comes in. So you're going to see, even though something may be a little bit confusing or disingenuous, you're not going to see it. So it's really easy to get sweet talked in that energy. All right. So that's coming in towards the weekend. And then as that energy progresses, you're going to see more of Mercury wants to communicate. Mercury in Gemini really wants to communicate. It's like the messenger. That's what the sign means. Mercury is the messenger, and in Gemini, it's communication. But what happens is, as the week progresses, into the 15th, 16th, 17th, there's really a lot of blockage to the communication. So it's very frustrating. So just know that and plan accordingly and make sure that, you choose your words carefully and you also discern. Like, we don't have to believe everything we're told or everything we see. What we have, that 24-hour rule or even a 5-minute rule is a great thing to have in this energy. Wait 5 minutes or wait a day before you respond to something, and then really respond, not react. So we're going to open up the phone lines because we're going to talk a little bit about karma. And welcome, Lizzie. We have some new people on. Lizzie McLeod, welcome. There were a couple of new people, and I think there was somebody named Carla that was new. So welcome. Laura Alvino's on. Welcome everybody that comes into the Soul Space tonight, and that is going to send up some hearts and some stars for you guys. Just sending those up. So welcome to the Soul Space. Share the show if you'd like. So we're going to talk a little bit about family karma and family drama. If anybody wants to call in, it's 516-945-9099. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to. And then we also will probably, if we have time, get to cards today. So family drama and family karma. Recently, something came that I was the observer with and really didn't participate in, but I found some family drama unfolding in my atmosphere. And it prompted me to actually dig into astrology and look at astrology charts in my family and see what transpired with karma and drama and different patterns and themes that have been throughout my family throughout generations. And it was really interesting. And what I learned, and I studied really hard, I did put a lot of hours in this week doing that, because I'm through my yoga teacher training. So now all the hours that I used to devote to that, I'm devoting to new projects. I want to keep my life moving forward. So I'm looking at the astrology and looking at family karma. And if you have the birth dates of everyone in your family, or even your immediate family, if you know when they were born, if you have the time, that would be really great. But if anybody wants a reading about family karma and can come in and bring your brother or sister's chart or your parents' charts, it is so amazing what the charts will discern and what I can show you to really enlighten you and open you up to our soul growth. And what I found when I went back into my own family drama and charts is that it's karma. I will tell you a few things to keep in mind for those of you who are having some family drama, and who doesn't, right? We all have drama. If you're like myself and you're, in the middle part of your life or approaching the middle part of your life, a lot of us were raised by parents who came from a generation. I was the youngest of 5, so my parents were older when I was born. And my mom and dad were actually like, young children and teenagers when World War II was happening. And so they saw a lot of things in their lifetime that, created their conditioning and the way they acted and the way that they thought people should live. And, that had an interpretation on me when, as a child, we interpret our brain, not fully formed, interprets the way things should be based on our stimuli, right? From the minute we come out of the womb, something's showing us and conditioning us. So when I went back in the charts, I actually could see, reading the planets, and of course, because I read a chart psychically as well, I actually could see the karma and the patterns, and it really helped me to understand things. And something so interesting happened. I actually keyed in my father's chart and had never really looked at that before. And my father and I had quite a karmic relationship in my lifetime with him, and he's passed now. And as soon as I saw my father's chart come up on the screen, I started to weep uncontrollably. And it was such a moving moment for me. And I'm just being vulnerable and sharing that with you because that is how powerful the planets and the stars and the cosmic energy is surrounding our birth charts. And the reason why I started weeping was just energetically, I saw the karma between us and I saw how much alike we really are. And it was so stunningly beautiful to see that shifting of the perceptions that I've had my whole life. And so I would love to give you guys those experiences if possible and read some charts for you. And, if that's something that you feel that you're open to, book a reading with me and we'll see what's in your stars. So family drama and karma, these are the things. And I've also been meditating on this a lot. And I've gotten a lot of downloads and a lot of insight from my guides. And here's a few things I'm going to tell you guys right off the bat. No matter what is happening with your family dynamic, it is a soul contract. So what's a soul contract? This is what I believe. It may sound hokey to some of you, but bear with me because I really truly believe this is the way it works. So before we're born, we create the energy of this lifetime. Now, I know what you're going to say. How can that be? I wasn't born yet. But your physical body and the space that you're going to inhabit in this earth are probably something that has not been incarnated or created yet, right? But the soul lives on through many, many lifetimes. So just as an example, suppose it's, I don't know, pick a time frame. It's 1800 and you've led a beautiful life, but you've had some issues, and maybe in this lifetime your issue has been you're very selfish or something, right? Or you have an issue with security or something. Well, now you die, right? And your body's dead, your mind's dead, your energy around you is pretty much gone except for the soul. The soul lives on. We have soul imprints that we've had in our souls for millions of years that we bring into each lifetime. So does our family. So the soul lives on. So when our soul is a being or a light, like let's just call the soul light, right? We're a light being. We sit with Creator and we decide what we want to do with the next lifetime, because the soul never dies. That's why I can communicate with people who have passed over and on the other side, because I'm hearing soul, right? We're hearing soul energy, love that never dies. It's just pure energy, pure light. So we choose sometimes our parents in that framework, in that reference, in that essence of our light, of our soul. We choose, and what happens is many times the souls that we choose to come into and be created within this world, be born from and be born with and walk the earth with, some of them are souls that have walked with us in other lifetimes, because maybe we had karmic lessons or we had things to work out and we didn't finish that up. So that person that died in 1800, but the soul lived on, now maybe they come back and it's, 2023 or something, or maybe, 1978 or whatever. And maybe the person that was their mom in their previous life is going to be their sister in this life. Or maybe their dad in their previous life is going to be their mom in this life. And I can attest to that because it makes a lot of sense for me when I've had past life regression, when I've had past life reading, and I've seen my father, for instance, was my grandfather in another lifetime. And there were other souls that I've had in this lifetime that played roles in different lifetimes that I've had. And when you start to see the running themes throughout those lifetimes, it's really interesting. Now, this may be really deep for some of you, and I totally get that, but let's simplify it. So now this soul that's had many lives and has imprints of those lives, maybe they've been imprisoned or persecuted. Maybe they've been very selfish, or maybe they've been super generous to the point where they've martyred themselves. Now they're going to be incarnated in a new lifetime, in a new meat suit, right? A new body. And they're going to have new people. But the soul is still carrying those imprints and lessons. So maybe in the 1800s, this person was someone who was very selfish and, a total it's all about me person, hurt people, walked on people, was just horrible person, right? Good in other ways, but maybe that was their challenge. And they really wounded someone in that lifetime. Well, maybe now they're born again. It's 1970 something. And maybe the theme for their whole life is going to be that they just seem to have this need to balance giving. They have a need to balance the borders between giving too much or not giving enough, and it's always bothering them. And they're triggered by people who are selfish. They're just triggered by that. Every time someone's all about me, or it's a person who has to hog the spotlight, that just really triggers them, and they don't know why, because they're such a generous person in this life. Well, because they didn't heal the other lifetime yet. So now those people, maybe family members who are tweaking them, are put in this lifetime to complete that karma and give you the opportunity to grow your soul in this lifetime. Maybe the running theme in that family for this soul's benefit is the extremes of that theme of being selfish. Maybe it's a family where, say it's a family of 5 or ancestors, or even going back to grandparents. And there's a grandparent in that family that was a nun, that was completely selfish and devoted her whole life to charity. But maybe their siblings in that lifetime, just crapped all over everybody and never thought of anybody but themselves. And now this person, right, this person who's incarnated in this lifetime, that's their family. And they're sitting at the dinner table and they're trying to work out balance issues about, what's appropriate to give, what's a healthy giving, and what's a healthy self-care. And they sit there and they think, I cannot be related to these people. I just don't resonate with any of this. Because it's there for your soul growth, but until you step into the consciousness of that, you can't understand it. And once you realize nothing's an accident and that all of these occurrences, events, happenings to you, for you, are all playing out so that you can grow that soul. So now these people are demonstrating the polarity of that energy. And by the same token, you will demonstrate for them the polarity of the energy as you are trying to balance and adjust and grow and understand throughout your experiences and your conditioning in your lifetime what's healthy and what's not healthy. And it can be any theme. There's many themes. In my family, there's a lot of themes of jealousy, envy, control, a lot of themes about religion. Absolutely. Themes about religion. My mother was extremely religious. My grandmother was extremely religious. My father was an atheist, right? See the polarity, right? So you can imagine going to Catholic school as a child and your father didn't go to church. That was like a weird thing for me growing up. And I oftentimes would be like, how come my father doesn't go to church? And I think I told this story one time. It's kind of funny, but looking back, what a story for my soul growth, right? Because I remember I was probably in second grade or first grade, and I was probably in second grade, and we used to have to go to mass all the time on Sundays, and then the first Friday of the month when you went to Catholic school, they'd give you a half day and you had to go to mass. Like the whole school went to mass. You'd walk over to the church together and you'd go to mass, and then they let you go home on every first Friday of the month. So we all went to Friendly's, but anyway, it was like Friendly's was like the malt shop of the town. So I remember one time coming home because we were going. I felt like, being a kid, you're what, 7, 8 years old. You feel like you're going to church all the time because you're going every Sunday. And then they make you go Friday. And for a little kid, you're like, I'm always in church, Ma. You know. So and I think I was receiving communion. So they make you go to confession, and I was like, but I'm 7 years old. Why do I have to go to confession? Even at that age, I was like, this is so bizarre. But and no offense to anyone. So I remember coming home and asking my dad, Daddy, why don't you go to church with us? Like, because the nuns now are telling me that everyone should be going to church, or what will happen to your soul. So I'm like, Daddy, why don't you go to church? And he says, I'm Jewish. And I'm like, oh, you're Jewish. Okay. So my little 7 or 8-year-old brain went to school that Monday, and they're talking about religion because you have religion every day in Catholic school. And they're talking about religion, and they're talking about going to church and why you have to go to church to save your immortal soul and all this stuff. And I raised my little hand and I'm like, Sister Margaret Michelle, my daddy doesn't go to church. Is he going to be okay? And she said, why doesn't your father go to church? And I said, well, he's Jewish. And all of a sudden, the whole classroom got really quiet. And then after a few minutes, she picked up the lesson again and nobody said anything. And I thought it was kind of strange, but I didn't know how strange it was until I went home that day. And my mother told me that the school called and wanted a meeting with both my parents. And so my mother didn't know why, and I didn't know why because I didn't put it together. I was only like, 7, 8 years old. And apparently when my parents went up to school, they were trying to figure out why my father was Jewish because they thought like the whole family was Catholic. And like, we didn't know that you were Jewish. Like, this is like something we don't usually do because, back in the day it was such a segregation thing of like the Catholic Church and whatever. So thinking about that in terms, framing that with soul growth, right? Talk about polarity. Well, as I got older, much older, and I started to make my own decisions, and especially now I become a psychic after growing up in a very devoutly Catholic background. What was my soul lesson? Well, be who you are, right? And I've struggled with that all my life, making myself invisible. And it wasn't until actually only a couple of years ago that members of my family actually found out that I do things like this because I really struggled with it. I struggled when I started to open psychically. I actually opened through angelic energy and angels because I bargained and told myself, well, it's okay to believe in angels because they're in the Bible. So like if I'm hearing angels or channeling cards through angels, that's okay, And so throughout my life, that was a running theme in my family. My sister actually is Jewish. She converted to Judaism when she married her husband. I have another sister who really doesn't participate in any kind of religion or belief system. I had an aunt who was extremely spiritual, into crystals, and I actually used some of her crystals, which I never knew about. I write about that in my book. And on and on, I can go back generations. I came to find out after I opened and started embracing my own psychic ability, that my cousin had a deck of tarot cards that belonged to my grandfather that came from Italy, and that I was actually a third generation tarot reader. So the father who didn't go to church and said something really silly about being Jewish, because he wasn't, he was just telling a 7, 8-year-old kid that to shut her up, which then why it caused this whole big thing. His father was actually a tarot reader, which no one ever told me. So I've had the running theme of religious beliefs and understanding that you don't need to be influenced. That's why I hate the word influencer on social media. I never want to be an influencer. Just want to be an inspirational being. That's was the running theme in the soul that incarnated in this lifetime. So what did my soul really need to do? My soul needed to shine the spotlight on being independent and believing in myself and being allowed to be who I really am in this beautiful framework of soul and soul space. And look what I do today. And overcoming all of that challenge and conditioning of what's right. You have to go to church or your soul will go to hell. And how far I've come. And if it wasn't for all of the conflicts and the arguments and the damaging things that happened as I was embracing my true authenticity and my true soul with my family members, everything from being kind of like disowned to not spoken to embraced, to seeing things come full circle I thought never would. That was my family karma. And if you think it was easy, it wasn't. I mean, there were battles. There was a lot of stuff that went on that was not good. And one of the other things that I came away from, especially these couple of weeks that I've really been thinking about the energy of family karma and soul contracts, is everything happens out of love. Everything that happens is not an accident. You're put here, you were incarnated in this situation, in these soul spaces of family, these family pods, as I like to call them, to grow the soul. But you were done so, it's love. It's all about love. The worst things that ever happened to you in your family happened so that you could turn something that is not love into love. That is why we experience not love, to make it love. It's the polarity. We have to experience it in order to bring it full circle into a place where when we die, because all of this is just temporary, when we die and the soul emerges and comes out again to be in that pure light form, what is it bringing with it to the next life, to the next incarnation? Love. So all these things that happen that are not love happen for us to bring love. And I go back to the very first channel I ever had in my entire life when Saint Germain came to me. He's my main guide. I work in the violet light. As you can see, everything's violet. And when Saint Germain, Lord of the Seventh Ray, violet light, highest light spectrum, came to me, the very first thing he ever told me was, I asked him, I said, "Why am I here? Why have you come to speak to me?" And he said, "You are here to put love where there is none." And I think that's why we're all here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the family. I'm going to look in the comments. And I will say that it's really about the soul. And a lot of times when we're having all these karma dramas with our family and we want to kill each other and we're just never going to talk to that person again and blah, blah, blah. A lot of it is because we are responding and reacting from this temporary place, from the place of our willfulness, our ego mind, our monkey brain, our I want it this way. I want to be in charge. They have to understand me. They have to see what I'm talking about. It has to be this way. This is the right way. And we come from that, but that's not real. Because when you die, none of that is real. The only thing that is real is the love you can put on there and say, I'm feeling this way because what is it? I have a need to control. I feel insecure if I'm not. I have people around me who are expecting too much from me, or I have people around me who don't understand what I can do, or, those are all my things. And whatever it is, put love there, because it's not about your willfulness. It's not about their willfulness. Most of the situations that we fight about and that we can't resolve are because we're thinking about us. We're thinking about ourself in some way instead of what's good for the whole, which is the soul of the family. And I think a lot of this drama plays out. I see it among a lot of my friends. It starts to play out when the mom or the dad gets elderly, and that's when it happened a lot in my life. My parents are both gone now. Luckily, we finally were able to come together as a family and do what was best for both my parents. But I see so much of that when a parental unit gets older and the family starts fighting because everybody wants to be the one, the lead, the chosen child. And there is no chosen child. People, we're all going to die. So, like, you're never going to be able to jockey for that position. And another place I see it a lot is in sibling rivalry. I had a lot of that in my own family, a lot of jealousy, a lot of possessiveness, like this is mine and this is mine and this is mine too. And you're never going to get it. And in order to resolve, I have good relationships with all of my siblings now. Mostly, I have one brother that's a little bit alienated from us, just not out of any conflict, just we're out of touch. Hopefully, there's a family gathering coming at the end of the year where that will be rectified as well. But what I can tell you without a doubt is, in order for us to get to the place where we can see clearly what the karma is, what the running themes and throughout the generations and the family is, and see it clearly, we do have to take a pause from the family. And that was my experience. I actually took a few year pause from my family when I was going through some major, major heavy stuff. And I knew that I could not resolve my issues in my soul and be around the conditioning and the way my family lived at the time. Because we all were conditioned to live a certain way and it wasn't my way. And so, yes, I took a big pause from my family, and I'm actually proud that I was able to do that with love, not in an angry way. It was never having an argument and going away from them. It was, I had to go away from them to grow my soul. And then when I came back with this new way that I live, feeling satisfied and comfortable in my skin, the relationships were so very different because I was no longer insecure. I was no longer scared. I was no longer anxious. I was no longer like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? They're going to say the wrong thing, or I'm going to do the wrong thing, or I'm going to get blamed for something, or they're going to fight with me, or I'm not going to be good enough, or they're going to think I'm weird, or they're not going to agree with me. Well, they don't have to understand you. Nobody has to understand you. The only person that has to understand you is you and the man upstairs. So we fight a lot trying to get people to understand us. And it's really okay if they don't. They don't have to. You just have to move the train forward and work together at something, or find a common ground where you can understand each other, or take that pause and understand yourself. So I want to see what you guys are saying about this subject. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to share or if this is resonating with you. But I think that this is really where a lot of it comes in, is it's generational. It comes from the way our parents grew up and their parents and their parents, and these souls come in and it's a running theme. And you'll see the way the theme plays out in your life. And then you'll be able to really sit and think once you get the theme, and you'll see how it played out in your brothers or your sisters or your moms or your aunts, and you'll see it all play out like I did. Like, it was really a lot about religious beliefs um, and concepts and perceptions of philosophy and self-individualization. And to this day, I will say there's a lot of conditioning in my family that's very judgmental. A lot of the things that um, people say, I think oftentimes they'll say something about someone, even in friend groups, and what they're really saying is they're not like me, right? Like, oh, did you see that? Or, oh, I don't understand why they have to do it that way. What they're really saying is do it my way, because that's the right way. So you'll see the themes and how they play out, and how everybody, that's really what they're like thinking. It's like, no, it's my way, right? So when you can liberate yourself from that, the whole world changes. So the way you stop the cycle, Anita, great question, is, for me, the way I did it, and I can't speak for everybody, it's going to be different. I know some people go to family therapy. Some people, just cut everybody off. For me, I had to take a pause. And my pause was that I didn't interact with my family members the way that I did. I was going through a very, very painful divorce and painful setbacks in almost every sector of my life. I had a complete and total rebirthing, reawakening, crisis, soul crisis, the whole nine. So I couldn't find myself in the conditioning and the way that my family lived. I knew that intuitively and instinctively. So I took a pause for, I'd say, maybe 4 years. Now, my 4-year pause was not that I didn't see anybody or talk to anybody. It was just that I limited my conversations. I didn't really go to a lot of events. I did Christmas. I would go for a couple hours and leave. I kept the lines of communication open, but I did not get entangled, embroiled, or participate in any kind of negativity whatsoever. And I created a life independent of my family. I had friends that were my family of choice. I actually did things like Friendsgiving with family at times and had parties with other friends. And I established those relationships and worked on those almost as a classroom of how to establish relationships. The other thing that a lot of people do, some people, like I said, go to therapy if everyone's open to it. The other thing I'm going to say, the most important thing to stop the cycle is, and this is the hardest thing you will ever do. I'm a very strong personality, so I know. You got to drop the rope. When there's I'm going to pretend this card is a rope and someone's grabbing and there's a tug of war. It's literally a tug of war in family. No, it's me. No, it's me. No, it's me. No, give it to me. Give it to me. Well, somebody's got to drop the rope. As soon as you drop the rope and you don't participate anymore, the energy changes. And put love there. We get nobody triggers us more than family, right? Nobody gets us more angry than brothers and sisters, right? So think about, why is that person acting the way they are? Well, it's a defense mechanism. They're scared. They're angry. They don't understand, or they're reacting to the same conditioning you had. They're just doing it in a different way. And there was a lot of conditioning, a lot of very harsh conditioning that went on in my family. And I can see it now. I mean, every single one of my brothers and sisters basically left home right from high school and never came back. So I, being the youngest, used to really for years harbored that being abandonment, and that every man for themselves. But what about me? I was still the kid left there. And there's big age differences between me and my siblings. So for years, I harbored that as such a negative thing. Now I see that as, wow, they were independent and they were brave, and each one of them eked out their own very successful life from basically nothing, you know. And now I look at that and go, wow, that they were showing me how to love yourself. They were showing me the karma, you know? So there's a polarity to everything. And when you can really see it and take some quiet time to see it, everything changes. But a lot of times in order to do that, we got to take the pause, because you can't see it when you're in it. You really can't see it when you're in it. And I'm certainly not an expert. I'm just talking about my experiences, because maybe they'll inspire you to look at something, or maybe something on tonight's broadcast will open your mind to something that's happened in your own life and say, wow, I got so mad at my sister about that, but now I see she really was just trying to live her life, or trying to take care of herself, or whatever it might be. There's a billion examples. So the first thing I would say, oh, thank you, Anne. The first thing I would say is, and Monica says resonates a lot. Thank you. I hope it does. I just want to help everybody, because I'm in a good place with my brothers and sisters. Now, that doesn't mean they don't tweak me still. We've got a lot of years of karma, a lot of generations, probably millions of years. But I can see now, like, their motivation, it's not really to hurt me or to make me less than. That's the story I played in my head for years. It really wasn't the story, right? Um, I have a sister now that is like an animal communicator, and she works with horses, right? She's the sister that converted to, she's Jewish now, and I would have never in a million years known that about her if I didn't open up, right? So there's treasure in there. There's a gem in there if you try. And the reason why this is so unbelievably important, and why I call it a pause, not a like cut your family off thing, I think family is so important for our soul growth. And I think when we are alienated from family, we always feel that something's missing. There's always a sadness there, because it's the soul. It's on a soul level. It's got nothing to do with, oh, he got the car, I didn't. Oh, you were always the favored kid. Oh, you got the ice cream, I didn't get it's not about that. It's about the lesson deep in the soul that the universe is trying to show you, and has put you together for that reason. Sometimes someone will not want to learn that lesson. And if they're harmful or abusive, yes, of course, you've got to go away from that. But I think, maybe think of it as a pause and change yourself a little bit, and then see if you can go back. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I think that on a soul level, we're supposed to do the work with family in some way. I really think when we do that, the soul gets elevated, we ascend a little more. Put love where there is none. Just put love where there is none. That doesn't mean go out and buy a coffee cake and have a kumbaya moment tonight, because they're probably not going to want to do that if you have a lot of drama. But it also doesn't mean that can never happen if you change a little bit, you know? Another suggestion I have is, when I did start to come back into the fold, I approached each one of my siblings separately and had conversations with them about the years that I was paused. And, they don't know I call it that or anything. I didn't go into detail, but I did have conversations with them about, listen, I know I didn't return phone calls. I know I've been a little isolated. This is why. I needed to get myself straight, and I didn't feel like I could do that around a lot of the family stuff. And they were very accepting of that, to a certain extent. There were some, little thorns, but that's okay. That's their consciousness. That's what they feel the need to do for their own soul. Um, so that's my 2 cents about it. And if they don't change, Trish, I think that what happens sometimes is we change, so we don't react to it so much. I still have one sister that's a little bit stubborn. She can be a little difficult. She's had a rough life. Some of it I think is self-making, but that's not for me to judge. That's my opinion. I don't think I'm ever going to be extremely close with her, because she has proven herself sometimes not to always be someone that's trustworthy for me. She's obviously not, she's a trustworthy person, but just my experience has not been that. And I don't judge it. I just know it for what it is. And for whatever reason, that's the dynamic between us. That's our pathology, or whatever you want to call it, psychology. So what I do is I have a relationship with her that's a little superficial. It's a nice relationship. I have fun with her. I love her very, very much, but I know I'm not going to go very deep with that relationship, because I'm not comfortable with that and probably won't be. So if they don't change, the key is to have a relationship that honors you and what your boundary is. And sometimes you don't even need to tell them about that boundary. You know what it is, and you'll act accordingly. Like sometimes when the situation, if I'm with that particular person and the conversation gets a little deep, I'll get up and go to the bathroom. I'll change the subject. Maybe, oh, this food looks really good. Let's eat. Or, you know, I keep it on a certain level. They're probably aware. They're not stupid, but in doing that, instead of challenging them and saying, "I don't want to talk about it," as soon as you do that, now you're throwing down a glove. You grab the rope again, right? So drop the rope. Don't argue. Don't fight. Let it go. Let it roll off your back. Even have a visual, of like water rolling off the back. You got to stay calm and grounded, because this is about your soul. This is about growing your soul forward. This is about doing the work that you were meant to do with your soul family in this lifetime. And so you want to do the work, because this is what's going to really grow your soul forward and open up and expand your life. If you can have a decent relationship, a flowing relationship with someone in your family that you really have a hard time with, think about how much the relationships that come naturally to you and are really good in your life, think about how much more they're going to be great, because it's like you're practicing how to really communicate and how to do things. I'm going to go to cards for you guys. Some people don't change. And yeah, so Lynn, I get it. Lynn says, I just described her relationship with her siblings. I get it. And there's a little bit of sadness to that sometimes. But like I said, I have friends that become my family of choice, because they're on my level as far as giving and taking. They understand the reciprocity of love. And love is redeemed with those friendships. And there's often times in my family now where love is redeemed in my family. And it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful for it. It's not the ideal that I always thought it was going to be, but I have allowed it to be what it is, and learned to enjoy that. Certain people are always going to complain. Certain people are always going to be a little bit tough to be around. But in the long run, those people will have their own work to do, right? Nobody's going to change for us. They're going to maybe change from themselves, and that would be nice if we could have a benefit from that. But the only thing we can do is change us. I find that most arguments that we have, we're arguing because we want to change somebody. We're arguing because we want somebody to fit into the snapshot that we've taken of them. We want somebody to fit into the mold that we have, that we think is the partner we should have, the sister we should have, the brother we should have, the mother we should have, the father we should have. And you know what? No one's going to fit into that mold because you created it. And when you created it, you didn't take them into consideration. Look and see who they really are, and then create something that you can enjoy with them or be with them or have something that is soulful and loving for them. All right. So I'm sorry we didn't get to cards tonight, but if you want your cards, you can go to the Zencuda channel on YouTube. You can subscribe or not. If you subscribe, you will get notifications. And on Tuesday, it'll probably be up late tonight, you can look at Tuesday Tarot, where I pull cards for every zodiac sign. I categorize you by the elements, so you'll know your sign. And you can find out what your week's going to be like based on my tarot pills and my predictions for the week ahead. Sorry, again, we didn't get to go to cards tonight, but you can read your cards there on the Zencuda channel under Tarot Tuesday. And you can find me on Zencuda Official on Instagram, Zencuda Soul Space on Facebook, and you can also find me on the YouTube channel where this show will be banked if you want to share it with people. If you have anybody you think needs to hear this about family karma, share the show, please. All of my videos are free and up for sharing. Thanks so much, guys. I will see you next Monday night in the Soul Space. Until then, I hope that you are in your own soul space and take a little bit of time to give yourself a little love and grow yourself and your life forward. Thanks so much. I will see all you guys. Love you. Share the show.